So we spent some time talking today about OpenStack and the underlying technology and private clouds and so on and so forth. But to me, this became really real when you look at real customer use cases and see how does it move the business for people in the real world, right? So what? Okay. So one customer story that I want to share is IdenTV. IdenTV is a startup based in the Valley. It's a fairly small and nimble startup, very scrappy, but it showed me a whole new world. This is their customer. Their customer is managing media broadcasts, video broadcasts, and is having to make decisions, sometimes in real time, about what ad programs campaigns are working and what ad campaigns aren't working, right? And they build this really immersive platform that is aggregating and measuring the efficacy of video broadcasts and media ad content in those broadcasts, and helping publishers and broadcasters fine-tune that in real time to optimize the efficacy of those broadcasts. So you might imagine, you can start to get a sense for some of the workload challenges that they have. Because this needs to happen in real time, they cannot have significant latency. So broadcasts are routed through specific hotels, essentially across the country. And if your servers are very far away from those hotels, the network complexity of being able to push that volume of data, because they need to actually analyze the video streams in real time, goes up dramatically. So they need to be on really good interconnects, very close to where these broadcast hotels are. So they need to be using servers, essentially, that are very optimally located across the globe. And they're starting with the US for now. So they deployed large numbers of servers. This is a really small startup, okay? And they deployed large numbers of servers, and they had one person to do it, like several hundreds of compute nodes, one person. And they said, that one person, we kind of need him back. Like, he's got to be we're a startup, we can't really afford like people doing this stuff. So this was the challenge that they faced, right? Using infrastructure that's distributed and that's located in a manner that makes sense in their business context, and being able to manage all of that, run this real-time video analysis, computer vision programs, and being able to analyze that and feed the data back in a way that moves their business and their customers' business, but with very, very few people. So they've used Platform9 to manage multiple sites that are distributed across the country, several hundreds of compute nodes. For the longest time, they were one of our biggest deployments. We have some more well-known customers now that are much bigger than them, but they've been able to streamline provisioning. With very few people, they've been able to streamline provisioning where they can have, quickly bring up the workloads that they need to based on the video content and the demand spikes that actually happen. So they've used dedicated image libraries, standardized instance flavors, and the key thing to them is that they have no headcount on this. There's like 0 people. So people talk about, in the OpenStack world, there's some well-known examples out there of thousands of compute nodes being managed by nearly 80 engineers, right, at one or two well-known companies. Well, what happens when you divide by 0, right? Because this is hundreds of compute nodes that this startup has managed to run in production without any headcount associated with this. So that's how we helped IdenTV. I'd like to talk about a key customer of ours. We're excited to be able to work with them. AlertLogic. They are using us to do hybrid cloud DevOps. My name is Sirish, Raghuram. I'm the co-founder and CEO at Platform9. AlertLogic is the leader in managed security. They're actually based in Houston. They're a very fast-growing company, recognized as a leader in the space. What they do is provide a comprehensive security solution that includes threat management, vulnerability management, analytics into a fully integrated platform that works with a variety of customer infrastructure. So their customers could be using vSphere, their customers could be using OpenStack, their customers could be using Amazon Web Services, and they support all of them. Internally, for them, they faced a challenge. They had multiple data centers running VMware vSphere, and they were also using the public cloud. So they're using Amazon Web Services, and those web services are, they're using multiple regions. And their challenge was, how do we build, stage, deploy, and manage a fully automated dev pipeline across all of these in a manner that kind of is scalable, right? So their solution was essentially, the challenge that they faced is, this is a vSphere web client, right? This is a VM instance, and they need the ability to kind of provision these using, DevOps-oriented tools, hybrid cloud-oriented tools, for example, Packer. And the key construct there is that we were able to enable that from going from a point and click. Before, they would struggle with the fact that vSphere was kind of really designed to be a point and click experience. They went from there to being able to define a Packer manifest that says, here's my underlying infrastructure, OpenStack. They had a plugin that defined that. Here, log in with this user, use this particular image, which is having this UUID, map it to this flavor, deploy it on this network, and this is how they build. Packer build test template.json, and this works exactly the same across its, whether it's Amazon Web Services or vSphere, right? And when they do that, this is what Packer does internally, is it goes in and it does its thing. This is what Packer is very good at. It goes in and completes a full build of whether it's, in their case, whether based on it was the chosen flavor and the chosen backend was OpenStack versus Amazon Web Services. It lets them kind of have a fully programmatic build and package and deploy. So that was a key use case that they had. Essentially, if I can put it a different way, they needed a cloud-native API for vSphere in a manner that allowed them to use this as a true hybrid cloud across a vSphere and Amazon Web Services deployment. So they have this really cool thing where they have vSphere templates, which, because of Platform9's discovery capability that we spoke about earlier, gets discovered as an OpenStack image that they can launch a VM instance from, which Packer is actually doing for them. And from where they can take another image, because they can take a snapshot via OpenStack, which Packer actually does that for them. And once they take an image, that's actually a template, again in vSphere. So their VMware admins see VMware templates, and their DevOps people do this thing with Packer that nobody knows what's going on. So, so.
It's magic.
Probably better that way.
So I'd like to talk about Dominion Enterprises. They're a great customer of ours. They've been trying to transform their internal IT culture, and we look forward to working with them closely to enable the transformation. My name is Sirish Raghuram. I'm the co-founder and CEO at Platform9. Dominion Enterprises, I did not know this before, but Auto Trader, For Rent, Yacht World, Boat Trader, Homes.com, many of these marketing properties are actually run by Dominion Enterprises. And they have large internal infrastructure that helps them manage all of these properties. The challenge was that the execs there are trying to bring about transformation in one of two ways. One is that they want to change the culture from being a static point-and-click IT environment to a DevOps automated infrastructure as code paradigm, right? And the other one was to reduce the cost of their infrastructure with a second hypervisor platform. I think we heard that today, but they had a stated goal. There's a mandate there to kind of reduce costs with a second hypervisor platform. So they, before when things would get done, it would get done manually. Click, 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 click. Go make a little tweak somewhere, right? How things used to be. And what they want to do is really something like this. They have these web properties. They want to be able to deploy them within test in a manner that's consistent to how they should be in production. They want that to be primarily driven by code, not by human manual operations. And they want to be able to take their VMware admins and train some of them to be able to become capable of automating this infrastructure programmatically using something like Heat. So select the resources, create conditional alarms that define workflows that should happen when those alarms are scheduled, and actually perform those operations. We also reviewed, earlier today I reviewed the single pane, how Platform9 now makes it possible to manage multiple regions, whether these regions are different sites, physical sites, or different hypervisor domains, but have a true single pane of glass. The drop-down lets you see the selection of one region versus the other. These could be two different hypervisors, but it looks and works exactly the same, right? When you actually go into orchestrating this environment provisioning workloads onto this environment, it looks and works exactly the same. So this is a key construct which for Dominion enterprises is going to help them reduce their infrastructure costs because they're going to be able to run a lot of workloads on KVM while managing a vSphere environment with a single pane of glass. So transformation of IT from a static IT environment to a DevOps environment and to reduce costs with this ability to manage multiple hypervisors seamlessly. I'd like to talk about one last customer. It's a very important customer to us. It's Box. Box is, I think, well known. My name is Sirish Raghuram. I'm the co-founder and CEO at Platform9. Box is the leader in business collaboration. As someone who uses Google Drive, I wish I used Box all the time. The great thing about them is that I think they understand how business users need to collaborate across multiple devices, multiple operating systems, multiple form factors, laptops, PDAs, tablets, and they make that really seamless, and their product is very well recognized as a leader in that space. What they needed to do is accelerate the development culture. So they're a value-based company, a proven leader when it comes to software development. They have a large development team, very high velocity, very highly disciplined, and they have created a dedicated productivity team. So they have a team of engineers, really smart engineers, who work across infrastructure and their build and dev pipeline just to make sure that their development process is as efficient and as fast as it can be. So this productivity team needed a way to accelerate how quickly CI/CD runs. So in a development organization, if you're following the agile methodology, you essentially need your tests to complete before code makes it into your branches. For that, you need your tests to be running as quickly as possible. And in their goal of accelerating their team's productivity, they essentially had two goals, right? How do we run many more tests per hour? And how do we reduce the time it takes for an individual test to run? Now, in addition to that, they also have an classic internal IT use case where they're using us as they needed a way to manage their internal infrastructure. So what are the options? They tried OpenStack. In 2013, they tried OpenStack. It's challenging. I think there were some conversations today about how OpenStack can be challenging. This is Box. This is a company that knows a lot about software. They hire the best and the brightest in the valley, like a lot of valley companies do, and they found it hard. And vSphere and Amazon were not an option just because of the price and also the scale at which these guys are. That wouldn't be a viable option for them. So Platform9 has helped them by essentially making it possible for them to run a lot more tests per hour and a lot faster because they're able to use our OpenStack-based cloud platform to manage server infrastructure, to use pre-configured images so they can launch test runs much faster because there's many more pre-configured images. So each test run can be faster. And because it's a cloud platform, it's geared to massive provisioning operations, right? It's designed to allow you to spin up and tear down machines. That's what cloud platforms do. So they're able to run many more tests in parallel. And as a result, they're able to accelerate the key bottleneck in any software engineering organization, the continuous integration pipeline, right? So they're able to scale that much faster. And for their internal IT, they use Platform9 to run their private cloud. So the idea here is that we provide the operational SLA. They don't need to take their busy engineers and have them deal with our cloud platform. It just works. They get up and running, and they've been in production for a while now, and just using it for all the things that you'd have in an internal IT use case.
How do you provide the mechanism for changing OpenStack release to these customers? Because they are using a set of APIs, a set of functionalities, and the next version will have something more new, different. And
so great question. How do we provide OpenStack releases? So we release on an average every month, but those are patches, bug fixes, minor new capabilities within the same OpenStack release. But every 12 months, we move to a new version of OpenStack. So when we started the company, we were based in OpenStack Havana. Last March, we moved to OpenStack Juno, and in the coming months, we'll be moving to OpenStack Liberty. So we move every 2 releases.
Okay.
The OpenStack community has actually done a remarkably good job of retaining compatibility. So all of the APIs are versioned. So if you use a certain version of the API, there's a clear deprecation mechanism so things don't break. And if you are very conscious, when you read the API documentation, it's very clear what is supported in what releases. And this is something we are very clear with our customers, that we will move to a new OpenStack release every 12 months, but we do wait for it to stabilize, and we also stabilize it extensively in our own environment before we release it. So those are the measures we have in place.
So just extending that question slightly, what's your support model with VMware? So as new releases of vSphere come out and need to be tested against, how do you work with that to make sure that you're ready to support that from day one of GA?
So that's a great question. So I'll answer the technical answer and then the business answer, right? The technical answer is because we use a small subset of the vSphere API, and it's a subset of the vSphere API that is stable and not really bleeding edge, so to speak. It's something that should just work no matter what, unless there's a major regression. If that were to fail, you'd have major things failing with vSphere, even outside of Platform9. Now, the business answer is that we do certify fairly quickly. So we do certify. So when 6.0 came out, we certify fairly quickly.
Did you do that before it was GA, or did you do that after?
The certification was after, but we had customers who were already using us before.
And do you commit to a certain time that says you'll do it within 60 days, 90 days? Or?
Our goal is within U1.
Okay.
By the time U1 comes out, which is when most people really upgrade, Chris.
Okay.
Great question.
So I imagine that many of your customers are implementing OpenStack with you after AWS, for example.
Yeah.
Just for a reason of cost and whatever. Do you have a path for them to help them repatriate these applications on in AWS compatibility? I know that there is something on OpenStack also. Do you support?
So I think the best thing that we offer them is that we're based on OpenStack, which is the closest thing there is to AWS. So we don't really offer migration services, but because it's based on OpenStack, there's a lot of tooling out there. Like if you use some of the HashiCorp tools or so on and so forth. Also downloading and exporting images and importing that into OpenStack. It does.
So the services part is not your job.
Yeah.